So why do we actually have to cite things? I mean, we've already completed the paper. We've written this amazing treatise on whatever topic of our choice. So why do we have to include citations? Well, there's a couple of reasons. And I'm actually going to skip down to plagiarism, deal with the very serious reason that we do this. So, plagiarism is defined as the use of someone's ideas or words as your own and passing them off as your own. This is essentially stealing. I know it's not the stealing of an object, but it is the stealing of someone's work. So, in college, plagiarism can have several consequences depending upon the severity of plagiarism, basically. You can fail the assignment, you can fail the class, or you can be asked to leave. And I know failing the assignment doesn't seem like such a big deal, but it can severely set you back in college. Failing the class can severely set you back in college. And obviously, being asked to leave a college will derail your plans. But plagiarism does exist in the real world. You can experience this beyond college. It is not something that is just for college courses or college writing. Think about the musicians who sue each other over beats or lyrics. They're suing each other over plagiarism of their work, essentially. And you can plagiarize not just by using ideas and words, you can also plagiarize using images, content, anything that you could use in your job to produce a document or a presentation. So you could face legal action for reproducing information or an image that is not your own. There's a reason there are licensing services for a lot of images. So citation, is necessary to protect yourself against accusations of plagiarism, whether it is here in college or out there in the real world. Now, that being said, citation is not a cure all for plagiarism. If you plagiarize a paper, whether in part or in whole, it really will not matter if you have included citations to the sources where the information came from. You have still reused someone else's idea and words as if they were your own. So if you take a good chunk of somebody else's paper or the whole thing and put your name on it, you have plagiarized, whether it includes citations or not. Okay? So that is one of the big reasons we ask you to cite is so when we put it through Turnitin or when your professor looks at it, the only things that will get come up as being someone else's words or someone else's ideas will be the things that you have properly cited, and everything else should be your own. There are some other reasons that we do this. Now, I know that the paper is evidence of the work that you have done, but citations also show what work you have done outside of the paper. It demonstrates to your professor what your research process was, what you looked at, what you examined. It often shows your professor just how much work you actually did outside of writing the paper. I've known several times where, you haven't done as great a job on the paper as you usually do, and having really excellent research and really excellent citations have actually saved you a letter grade or two. Um, it doesn't always happen, but it does show your professor how much time and effort you put into this project. And as we were discussing earlier, you are giving credit to others because while you may not know them, know what they look like, who they are, or even what they do, it is important to acknowledge their contribution to your paper. It's just as if you were in a group project, you would want to receive credit for your part of it. It's the same deal. You want to give these folks credit for what they did. Oftentimes I get asked, why are there so many citation styles? Why can't we just have one? And the reason that we have so many is that they serve as a means of communication within a profession or discipline. So, for example, APA style is used a lot of times by social and behavioral sciences, psychology, criminal justice, education, nursing. Chicago style is often used by history, art history, a few other liberal arts. And MLA is used by disciplines like English, fashion, and modern languages like French, Italian, or Spanish. So when folks in these disciplines read a paper, a book, They can look at the citation and immediately identify what type of source you have based upon the information you have communicated through your citation. So think about it as a communication not just with the reader, but also communicating to the with the to the conversation about this topic and communicating with your reader to show what conversation you consulted about this topic. And the final reason that we cite is a very practical reason. It helps other people locate what you've looked at. And I know this doesn't seem like such a big deal for a college paper, but you'd be surprised the number of times a professor is interested in what you have cited and wants to learn more. I know professors who will actually pull out sources from papers and use them for their own research or for the next time they teach the class because you've done a really good job. And it's really important that you give your reader the means to actually find this information, whether it's your professor or someone else, because they may want to seek it out for themselves. And this is, probably one of the most important reasons to do this because, quite honestly, you want your reader to be able to find what you looked at. Setting aside plagiarism and giving credit, the whole idea is to provide access so they can look at the same sources and assess for themselves whether you've represented it fairly or maybe they just want to look at it. All right. And this is really important because oftentimes professors will give you assignments where they ask you to track down additional sources using citations in a paper, in a book. And if your citations are not correct, it makes it very hard for the next person to actually track down the information. Now, there's a very well known human resources textbook that was assigned to students on campus, and their assignment, as I said, their professor said go and pick a chapter, pick a section, and go track down those citations. Now, this is a book that's in its umpteenth edition, published work from a textbook publisher. You'd go to the chapter citations, and I estimate that about 90% of them were wrong. And it made the students' lives really difficult. So be better than those textbook editors, be better than those textbook authors, and make sure that your citations are correct. Make sure you provide enough information that your reader can track them down. So those are the reasons why we ask you to cite things. Okay, I know it's not always the most fun and stimulating thing to do, and it always feels like the last thing you have to do before you're done with the whole paper, but it is really important on a number of levels.